have a handful of interesting Reddit stories to read, and I also just started a new Minecraft modded survival, so get your popcorn or take a nap or do what you gotta do, and I'll start with the first story. Am I the a-hole for publicly shaming my coworker for his bathroom habits? I was working at a grocery store, and one day while waiting for the bathroom, a coworker of mine came out, used the hand sanitizer that was outside the restroom, and walked back to his station. I entered the restroom and found that he didn't lift the toilet seat and had urinated all over it. I had to clean it up in order to use the toilet. It was gross and infuriating. When I came back, he was at the self-checkout line chatting with a few friends. I walked up to him and asked him if he knew how to wash his hands properly. He was blindsided by the statement and shmuttered that he did. His friends went quiet and just watched the unfolding drama. I said, "So you can touch a toilet seat and clean your hands." He started to mention how he used the hand sanitizer. I cut him off and told him and his friends that I cleaned up his piss. I then explained that in the most condescending way possible, that it's okay to touch a public toilet seat and afterward clean up after yourself and wash your hands. He absolutely did not expect this and couldn't react. He was a very well-liked person and charming, but I always low-key despised him because he just lacked substance. Having to clean up after him like he was a baby put me over the edge. It was mean and aggressive, but I kind of enjoyed it because no one seemed willing to call him out. So in this case, I'm gonna go with you are and also aren't the a-hole. I mean, if someone's peeing on the toilet seat and then you have to clean it up, that's unacceptable. Nobody wants to go through that. But at the same time, I feel like instead of just straight up, bad mouthing him and going off on him in front of like a bunch of people, you should just handle it between you and him, depending on how quickly I would have noticed the pee on the toilet seat, like, I don't know, let's say it was a really small bathroom, right? And they come out, I immediately go in and I see there's piss all over the toilet seat. I'd call them back in and be like, "Hey, you need to clean this up," Obviously it kind of just depends. Like if they get real far away and maybe some I'm not gonna go chase you down and leave the bathroom and come back. But if you're right there and I see it, I'm gonna be like, "Hey, that's crazy. You need to go clean that up, bro." But in general though, I feel like if something like that, you can handle that between you and the person versus going off in front of other coworkers and stuff like that. It's just kind of unnecessary. But at the same time though, I feel like something like that will definitely make it not happen again. Like if you get caught out like that in front of your friends, you go make sure you don't really do that. And it also sounds like they probably only use one restroom in that grocery store. So I don't know, like I feel like as a coworker, right, you're gonna make sure you treat the bathroom with care because you all use it. I mean mostly in the context of when I worked at a grocery store, there was a break room bathroom, and I feel like that one was always clean. Like nobody's gonna dirty up the break room bathroom because there's only a select few that use it. So if you do something crazy, it might come back to you. But the public bathroom was always a mess because everyone's using it, And so, especially if you're all using one bathroom, or if this was the break room bathroom or something, yeah, I ain't gonna lie, I'm not too mad at you going off on the guy, but at the end of the day, I'm gonna go with saying you're half the a-hole because it isn't necessary, it isn't the nice thing to do, but I do get it because I'd be pissed too. But then also too, the last paragraph is kind of crazy because he was saying how you enjoyed it and that you admit it was aggressive. So it might just seem like you just don't like the guy and that was your excuse to go off. Like that was your 13th reason why to go off on the guy, which I don't know. If you actually don't like the guy and you have a good reason to not like him, like just him lacking substance, that's not enough of a reason. But if it's been pent up, I again, you shouldn't be doing this, but I ain't that mad at it. Also, assuming you don't do stuff like this in general, though, that's another thing too. If with this incident, as long as you're not too crazy about it, if you're yelling at the guy or like just really going off, then no. But just kind of embarrassing him, calling him out for something that he did. I mean, shoot, don't pee on toilet seats and you'll be okay, right? That's kind of how things go. You can't do things and then get mad when someone gets upset for the things you do. Within reason, of course. As long as you're not screaming at nobody and just going straight out of line, then I might give you a pass on it, but just barely. Like you're an a-hole too, but overall I'll let it slide. Am I the a-hole for purposefully dumping a bowl of red punch onto my friend's white carpet? TW, alcohol and alcoholism. I guess she could be considered an ex-friend now. I'm a 35-year-old male. Recently got back together with my ex-husband, Jay, 37-year-old male, after years of divorce. Our divorce was messy, but I've already posted about it, so if you're curious on the details or how we got back together, you can go look. What I will mention is that Jay is an alcoholic. He's been sober for years now, and it was how I knew he was ready to make a change. And it was also the reason for our split. I've long since explained this to all my friends and family and thought they were fine with it. Last week we were invited to a party. My friend Addie, a 31-year-old female, was hosting. I met Addie during the time when Jay and I were separated, and we bonded due to our similar circumstances. Her ex-husband was addicted to drugs, and she left him for it. She was the last friend to come around to Jay and I getting back together, but I thought she had come around. We got there, and it was maybe 90% people we didn't know. Addie greeted us, and when she did, she made sure to say it was a dry party, which Jay thanked her for. She also made sure to point out the punch bowl she had worked all day on, and said it was her best batch yet. I'm allergic to pineapple, so I didn't have any, but Jay loves it, so he kept getting more. We were there for about an hour. I had lost track of Jay for a bit, but knew something was wrong when I saw him stumbling towards me. Upset, he leaned in close and muttered, "OP, I think there's wine or something in this." I quickly and quietly escorted him out and told him to wait in the car. I went back in and asked Addie, who was standing by the punch bowl, why she lied about the punch since Jay was tipsy. She looked at me in the eyes before saying, "I didn't add anything to it. Maybe he brought his own," with this smirky grin on her face. I kept getting angrier and angrier with her and she kept denying that she did anything, but smiling wider and wider. And after a certain point, the party had stopped and we were yelling. Eventually, she said something along the lines of, "OP, this is what happens when you trust addicts. You should have known better." In that moment, I saw red, and I grabbed the punch bowl and very deliberately poured it all over this beautiful white carpet. Addie kept screaming, but I didn't waste another second in there and went back to the car, where Jay was sitting and crying. Since then, I've been keeping a very close eye on Jay. He's been crying when he thinks I can't hear and keeps looking at this sobriety chip. He didn't go to his AA meeting a few days ago, which I talked to him about, and he agreed to go next time if I came with him for moral support. He has thankfully not had any more to drink. Since then, people have been blowing up my phone, most of all Addie. She's demanding I pay her back the $500 it costs for the rug. I have unknown numbers from people at the party texting me and calling me, and among other things. I'm beginning to wonder if I went too far messing up her rug. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I later got confirmation she spiked the bowl. She told other guests it was spiked. Dang, that's crazy. Okay, so in this scenario, I feel like what OP did wasn't necessarily right, but it was definitely justified. I think socially and like as far as how I feel about what you did, I feel like it was justified, right? Because alcoholism is no joke, and if someone's just for some reason, I guess basically he got drugged. Basically, that's what happened. It wasn't as serious as it may sound when you hear someone getting drugged, but that is what happened. He has a problem with alcohol, and someone you know basically tricked him into drinking alcohol, knowing they have a serious issue with it, which could have ruined his life. Most people who end up going to AA meetings and having to get off a certain substance, the substance probably had a big effect on their life. So potentially dooming that person back to a place where you know he could have had to start all over based off of that one incident, which again might be a little extreme, but it could definitely happen. People relapse on things all the time, so that's definitely not something you mess around with. So I feel like the cost for messing with someone's livelihood, messing with someone's a lot of things, their future, their livelihood, their friends, their family, like it sounds like from the little bit that I've heard of the story that drinking and all this stuff cost him a lot, and then he's trying to fix what it cost him and get his life back. So potentially messing with someone's life like that's not a joke. So I feel like for what she did and for what happened to her, it's definitely valid. But in practice, I feel like even if someone wrongs you, vandalism is never really the answer. Even though, again, I feel like it's justified, I feel like there's other ways. Like you could have just went off on her, or honestly, I mean, this isn't really better anyways, but I feel like if I was gonna get someone back on something, it's not gonna be something that could end up causing me. How do I explain this? I wouldn't vandalize someone's property. I'd rather just badmouth them and tell everybody what this person did, or I'd make them look bad or something. Because if I break someone's property, right, and they, I don't know, press charges or whatever, I'm gonna have to pay that thing back. But I feel like for $500, I mean, I guess you could, like take it to court or something. But I think $500 isn't really enough money to really do all that. So you're probably fine. Like I think what you did is pretty much fine, because it's not gonna come back to hurt you anyway. I don't think she's gonna do anything, so if it was like you vandalized her car or something like that, I think it'd be much different, because now that's gonna come back to hurt you. And even though honestly, if you wrecked her car, it would have been it would have been maybe a little justified. I wouldn't judge you if you did. But that could come back to hurt you, right? So to me, you're not the a-hole, but you made a potentially dumb decision by dumping the punch on her carpet. But I think all in all, I'm gonna go with not the a-hole, and it's not something I would do. I probably would have just went off on the person in front of everybody, and then probably just badmouthed her around all her friends and stuff, and just made sure people understood exactly what happened and what kind of person she is. But I think you can go that route too. I think that's like like petty mild vandalism. It's not too big a deal. Yeah, you're not gonna get sued over it. It's not gonna come back to haunt you. She can text you all she wants about you need to pay her back. You don't gotta pay her back, bro. I think you're good on that one. Also, who even does something like that? Like the way OP described it seemed like she thought it was some kind of joke. Because now I think about it, she's like, oh, I didn't do anything, and then starts smiling, and then starts smiling more and more, which if it really went down exactly how the person wrote it, That's something you do when like you're joking around, or you like, you're just messing with someone. It sounds like she thought it was genuinely funny the whole time. Where I feel like if it was like out of hate, you would, spike it and then just really stick to your guns. You're not going to start smirking or laughing. You're going to be like, no, I didn't do it. And you're going to convince yourself you didn't do it, and like, frame the person, and really like dig into it and, try to make them look bad. I feel like the whole smiling part where she's just, I don't know. I kind of wish, I wish I knew more about how she felt about the ex-husband, or well, they're not ex, no longer ex, the ex-husband. They got back together, but yeah, I guess she must really not like him or something, because yeah, I don't know, that's strange behavior. And to be honest, thinking about it more, I feel like it's probably good you're not friends in the first place, because that's really strange. Like, nobody does stuff like that. I feel like, it's one thing to make comments, or just constantly maybe have something to say about someone, but drugging somebody is kind of crazy. I ain't gonna hold you. That's I don't know. People are interesting, man. There's so many people in the world, and you hear stories like this and you just realize just how crazy people can really get, which this story isn't even that crazy. Obviously there's even crazier people out there, but I don't know. Am I overreacting for being upset my sister announced her pregnancy at my graduation dinner? I'm a 22-year-old female, graduated from university last weekend after honestly one of the hardest few years of my life. I worked a part-time almost my entire time I was in school. Took care of a lot of responsibilities at home and basically had no social life because I was so focused on graduating with honors. My parents were really proud and planned a nice family dinner for me at a restaurant. Nothing huge or fancy, just immediate family and a couple of close relatives. I was genuinely excited because my family usually doesn't make a big deal out of my accomplishments, so this felt special. My older sister, 27-year-old female, has always kind of been the main character in the family. She's louder, more outgoing, and somehow every event becomes about her eventually. I've spent years trying to not let it bother me. The dinner actually started off really nice. My parents gave a toast about how proud they were, and my aunt brought flowers for me, and I felt seen. Then, right before dessert, my sister suddenly stood up smiling and said, "Well, since everyone's together, I have news too." She pulled out a tiny pair of baby shoes and announced she was pregnant. The entire table exploded. Everyone started crying, cheering, hugging her, taking photos, asking questions, moving seats to sit closer to her, etc. And within maybe 2 minutes, my graduation dinner completely turned into a pregnancy celebration. No one talked about my graduation again for the rest of the night. At that one point, my mom literally asked the waiter if they could write "Congrats Mommy" on the dessert plate for my sister. Meanwhile, my own graduation cake was still sitting untouched at the other end of the table. I just kind of sat there quietly while everyone focused on her. I tried really hard not to cry because I didn't want to ruin the mood. When we got home, my mom noticed I was quiet and asked what was wrong. I admitted that I felt hurt that my sister chose my graduation dinner to make her announcement. My sister immediately got upset and said I should be happy for her. Now my family says I'm being selfish and dramatic because a pregnancy is exciting news and it's not like the graduation changes anything. My sister also said I'm too old to care about having attention for one night. What hurts most is that I would never do that to someone else. If it had been her engagement dinner, birthday promotion, anything, I would have waited for my own moment instead of hijacking theirs. Now I feel guilty for even being upset because everyone's acting like I'm some jealous monster for wanting one dinner to stay about the thing we were supposed to be celebrating. Am I the a-hole? So this one's actually r/am I overreacting and not am I the a-hole? But yeah, in this scenario, you're definitely not overreacting. It's kind of tough because honestly, yeah, especially if your sister's always the main character and all that stuff, she probably does things like this on the regular. I think she even mentioned that. And it's tough because yeah, you're happy for your sister and it is exciting news, and the news is low key more important than the graduation, which is it's all unfortunate, you know. But you should never do something like that during someone else's big day. And at what, I think she was 27. At 27, you'd have to be kind of dumb or just going out of your way, or you just are someone who just really can't, who maybe doesn't have that much empathy or just doesn't care about other people very much, because that's definitely a known thing that you shouldn't do. And I kind of also get the reaction a little bit because it's one of those things where you kind of can't say anything, because if you say something, you're gonna feel it's gonna sound like you're overreacting, or it's gonna sound like you're being selfish, or that you're jealous, or like you're just hating on someone. But in practice though, it's kind of one of those things where it's just you can't say nothing, but then also you're gonna feel like trash. So it's just kind of a lose-lose situation. And especially the part when she mentioned like the cake's just over on the side, no one's even looking at it, everyone's just talking to her, everyone's moving tables and moving their spot and trying to get just that sucks. That really sucks. I don't know. I feel like that painted the picture in a way where I can definitely see like I'd be hurt too, So yeah, you're definitely not overreacting, but unfortunately it is one of those things where honestly you really just can't win. Especially, I mean, depending on how the sister is, like if she's actually rational and like will listen if you like talk to her, like, hey, I know you had your moment, and you're pregnant and everything, and that's exciting, but maybe in the future just try not to do stuff like that when someone else is having their day. Just be mindful of those things. I feel like that's probably the best you can really do, because what else can you say? You kind of, unfortunately your sister is just kind of inconsiderate, so it's unfortunate, but I think it's just one of those things you're gonna have to just deal with. Obviously you're dealing with it. But yeah, there's not much you can really do about it, which super sucks. But I don't know, man. I wonder what some of these comments say. Okay, so the top comment says, not overreacting. You should never announce your own personal stuff at someone else's celebration. No matter what it is about, never. Just know. To do it is incredibly selfish and hurtful. And then the OP says, exactly. I'm not even upset that she's pregnant. I'm genuinely happy for her. What hurt is that she couldn't let me have one evening about my achievement before making it about herself. There are 365 days in a year to announce a pregnancy. Choosing someone else's celebration is a choice. And that's 100% true. I think that yeah, she didn't plan to have an announcement that day. I feel like that's one thing that kind of passed my mind a little bit, is she had no plans to announce this, And so it's just, I don't know. Maybe she felt jealous of you and then just wanted the event to be about herself because it wasn't about her today, So she's like, oh, I know. I don't know what dumb people think about. I don't know, man. I feel like people who do stuff like this, I can't put myself in their brain, and it's just like, I don't know. People like that are kind of unrelatable a little bit. I feel like it's common knowledge not to do stuff like that. Another comment says, couldn't she just let you have one night? You're definitely not overreacting. Nobody can hurt you like your family can. Dang, that's actually really true. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, most people. Yeah, no. That coming from a family member, that's definitely something else too. Is those are the people that should never do something like that. People that should never be hurting you or making your life harder. They definitely will. Over, that's what happens with family too. But they shouldn't be. So Yeah, all the other comments are pretty much saying the same thing. This person's definitely not overreacting, but yeah, it's kind of just a lose-lose scenario, and unfortunately, you even saying something just made it worse. So it's just, yeah, that sucks.